Okay.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today and bringing your curious minds. I'm the founder of Me Time Healing, and I have with me Ipek Potur, one of our beloved clinical psychologists, who I had the pleasure of working with for over a year and a half now. We enjoy each other's company. We like talking to each other about exhilarating ideas. And now we want you to, tap into her knowledge and her expertise with this wonderful workshop here. Take it away, Ipek.
Thanks so much, Hanum. Yes, so my name is Ipek, and it's lovely to see everyone. Thank you for joining. And as you know, we will talk about mindfulness today. So essentially, I would really, want this session to be quite a relaxed, perhaps, quite an informal one actually, and a relaxing one as well, if we're talking about mindfulness and meditation. So I'm hoping that you find it helpful, because we'll be, looking at some practices as well. We'll be trying a couple of things. So I hope you find it helpful and we can have a start. So, just to look at what we'll be talking about today, we're going to be starting from what mindfulness is and the benefits of mindfulness. And then we will move on to connecting the mind and body. We will then talk about stress, overthinking, burnout. We all can experience those sometimes. And we will then discuss why mindfulness is so important, why it's so helpful, and why it's so good for us, actually. And lastly, we will finish off with a taster session of a mindfulness exercise, which will be, I do think, would be very fun. So, the primary focus in mindfulness meditation is the breathing. I'm sure you would have, seen it. If you haven't practiced before yourself, if you would have seen it, perhaps, on TV shows and films. There can be usually a character that is quite interested in these things, and even the picture you can see here. Essentially, when we think about mindfulness and meditation, I suppose this is the sort of image that we think about usually. But essentially, it's the main aim here is for us to use our breaths to, reach a calm, non-judging awareness, essentially simply acknowledging, the sensations in our body, how we're feeling in our bodies, or what's happening around us as well. Perhaps we're hearing some birds if we're lucky to be in a peaceful environment as well. But essentially, it's about allowing your thoughts and feelings to come up and go. So this is most of the time inevitable. We will have thoughts and feelings come up during meditation, during breathing exercises, but what matters the most here is to be able to, let them go, and not being caught up in them, not, taking time to then stop and think about those thoughts and feelings essentially. And eventually, this creates calmness and acceptance. We will talk about these a bit more as well. But before we do that, like I said, I would really like this session to be quite a relaxing session, where we could all kind of hopefully feel a bit more relaxed and in peace. So I just want to set the tone for the session. And I would really like us to start with a breathing exercise, before we talk about anything else. So let's give it a go. And we will do a very simple one today. Essentially, it'll be a very short one as well. We will do an essentially simple breathing exercise. We will take a deep breath in, and count to 4, and then we will hold our breath for, 7 seconds while we're counting up to 7, and then we will exhale. So release that breath, counting up to 8. So These are the only rules. But please make sure that wherever you're sitting, wherever you are, you're sitting comfortably, whatever that means for you, any sort of pillow cushion behind your back can be helpful. But whatever that means for you, to sit comfortably, let's make sure that we are all doing that. And you may want to close your eyes. I mean, I can't see you, but it might help you to kind of get into the exercise a bit more if you choose to close your eyes doing this. So let's give it a go. So let's all take a deep breath in, counting to 4. You can count yourself. I'll be counting for you and letting you know when you need to hold the breath. So don't worry. So with me, please take a very beautiful deep breath. Now hold the breath. And then exhale in 8 seconds. Let's do it again. Let's take a deep breath in, counting to 4. Hold that breath, counting to 7. And exhale slowly, counting to 8. Let's have another go. I know we have newcomers. No problem. Hello. Welcome aboard. We're just practicing, just doing a bit of a breathing exercise. So if you're ready, please sit comfortably, and with all of us now, take a deep breath in, counting to 4. Now hold that breath, counting to 7. And exhale, slowly counting to 8. So let's do it one last time. So let's take one deep, lovely, beautiful breath, 4 seconds. Hold for 7 seconds. And exhale slowly in 8 seconds. Yes. And please, whenever you feel ready, you are closing your eyes. Please gently open your eyes and come back to our session. And of course, we can now breathe normally. How was that for everybody?
Calming.
Brilliant. That's great to hear. Hanan says about relaxing. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that is our main goal. Just want to feel a bit more relaxed, calm, and just bringing our focus to our breathing, our body, essentially. I just want to ask, did anyone feel like some other thoughts were coming up or were we, quite focused on our breathing while we were practicing?
It's difficult to quiet the monkey brain. Like
Hmm.
so
Yeah, I know.
there's always, right? There's always that effort to stop those feelings. But
Uh,
this time I felt no, I, I was able to push them away.
Brilliant.
Hmm.
Brilliant. That's great to hear. Yeah, it can absolutely be, difficult to quiet the thoughts most of the time. And that's why um of course these practices can be great even as a one-off, but essentially they are much more, helpful when we can make them a regular part of our lives. So as frequently as we're able to, practice these exercises, the better we get at them anyway. So we will find that over time, through practicing more, your focus is boosted really, and it's much easier for you to shift your focus to whatever sort of practice you're engaging in, and to be able to let go of the thoughts. And what's interesting, you actually, we were mentioning about quieting the brain, but what I would personally say is actually even more important, is that, accepting that there will be thoughts that come up, feelings that come up, but we can simply acknowledge them, being aware that they can be there, but essentially just letting them go, and again shifting our focus once again. All right, perfect. So thank you, everyone. And if we like to move on, just want to quickly mention, John Kabat-Zinn's kind of description, I would say, of mindfulness. John Kabat-Zinn is the founder of mindfulness, and they would describe it as meaning paying attention in a particular way on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. So we essentially, in terms of the purpose, we are actively making a choice to pay attention, and we are choosing to pay attention in the present moment. So wherever we are, whatever is happening, wherever we are, perhaps in our lives as well, and to simply acknowledge it, which brings, the non-judgmental part. So, which also brings acceptance, eventually as well. So we will all, essentially these are the main, I would say, elements of mindfulness, and we will be, repeating these time and time again, really, during this presentation because they're so important, and of course they are connected to everything else that we will be talking about as well. So we will be thinking about these things quite a bit today. So of course that was kind of more related to perhaps our day-to-day lives, but it's also important to talk about um, mindfulness-based stress reduction, as it is a therapeutic technique, again, founded by John Kabat-Zinn in the 70s at the University of Massachusetts Medical School. And essentially, the main point of this technique, how it was, invented essentially, was because they decided that they could try a new thing to help patients with chronic pain, which was of course affecting their mental health and well-being. And unfortunately, these patients hadn't responded to traditional therapy. So that's why the professionals were looking at other ways to support these individuals. So essentially, it is a therapeutic technique in which there's an instructor, and the instructor guides the participants in weekly practices like meditation and yoga in order to reduce stress. So if you're interested, you can absolutely look into it a bit more, especially if you are someone with maybe chronic pain, or if you are thinking about maybe you have tried therapy before and you felt that it wasn't very helpful. It's just good to keep in mind that there are other ways, of course, and even by yourself or even kind of using online resources, you can have access to information around this technique, which I think it can be very helpful as well. And essentially, either through these groups or just in general, again, when we talk about mindfulness, we talk about how important it is to be able to nurture your connections with family, friends, partners, and community, because as I mentioned earlier, you are choosing to be present, you are choosing to um, be in that moment wherever you are, regardless of whatever's happening, you are there actively making that choice to be there, which, thinking about your relationships with those around you, this will inevitably help your communication because you are there, you are listening, you are responding with high awareness of the situation. You are non-judgmental, and you are accepting. So all these things will definitely help all of us really in terms of our communications and relationships with those around us, which again is very important for our mental health and well-being. And as we see here, it brings meaningful relationships that bring you joy and a sense of belonging and meaning, which are again very important for our mental health and well-being. And lastly, this slide, I'm hoping you are able to see this visual. So I do think this is quite interesting. We can see, how we were saying there's an active choice of being present. So we see that it's almost kind of, there are two options where you can be mindful or you can be mindful. Of course, when we say it like that, with as the sounds are pretty much the same, may not make sense. But essentially what this picture can show you is it is a choice, and you through practices, through increasing your awareness around this, and maybe through psychoeducation even, you can be in mindfulness as well, rather than your mind being full and obviously being overwhelming. So one thing that is very important to talk about also when we talk about mindfulness is neuroplasticity. So essentially, neuroplasticity is the ability of our brains to be able to, form, essentially rewire itself. So form new synaptic connections. Essentially, synaptic connections are just connections between our brain cells, which makes everything happen, essentially. From me raising my left hand now to you being here and participating in this session today, from simple to complex things, they make everything happen, essentially. So our brains, like I said, are able to form new connections between our brain cells, or change the existing ones. So these processes are affected by, all the learning that we've had and the experiences that we've had, again, our education, our upbringing, our habits, everything that we do really is affected is affecting these processes. And essentially, we are trying to increase or attempting to increase our neuroplasticity, essentially to reduce, age-related brain degeneration, or to be able to, maintain the cognitive functions we have as, we are all aging, or improve if that's possible. So that is why it's very, very much important. And when it comes to mindfulness and its relation to neuroplasticity, it's been suggested that the practice of meditation is associated to neuroplasticity, and it reduces brain degeneration and improves cognitive functions. And neuroimaging studies have actually shown quite a lot of evidence for this in terms of the brain connectivity changing over time in meditators. So meditation can be very effective to, in simple words, really keeping our brain young and healthy and as functional as possible for the longest time that we can have it, essentially. So it's very important. And it's not just meditation, yoga has been shown to have similar effects as well. And mindfulness in general, any type of mindfulness practice, exercise is quite helpful for this. So very important. So, of course, there are so many other benefits of mindfulness. And as we can see, they are all kind of connected to each other and related to each other. So, when we're practicing mindfulness, it helps us essentially go into a relaxation state physiologically as well. So, our heart rate slows down, respiration slows down, our blood pressure reduces. So, of course, these effects then bring other benefits, such as relieves, mindfulness being able to relieve anxiety, increasing self-esteem as, we are accepting, we are in the moment, we are non-judgmental, which would bring a bit of an understanding, a bit of an awareness of self-esteem, and it would give us some more space to be able to work on that as well. And essentially, because we are accepting who we are, where we're at in life, it's very helpful. It's shown to be very helpful for increasing self-esteem, increasing empathy as well. We are accepting whoever we're talking to if we're always practicing mindfulness. And again, it's not going to look like, a session of meditation, but it's going to be more of a way of life. It's going to be more of an understanding. So it will affect, how you connect and communicate with people. And mindfulness, helps improve sleep and reduce stress, and of course improves mood, especially, if if we practice these exercises regularly, we will absolutely be seeing these benefits quickly, actually, as well. It increases energy. I mean, our sleep is improved, our stress is reduced, our mood is improved. Of course, it will automatically almost increase our energy. We will have improved awareness. Again, just because we are shifting our focus to the present moment, we will have much more awareness of what's happening, how we're feeling, maybe, how, if we have another person next to us, how they might be feeling, just essentially just what is happening around us and awareness around it. And of course, it boosts focus, like I said. Practicing these exercises regularly, especially, it will become easier and easier over time as you practice to be able to shift your focus to either your breathing or other things, which we'll talk about as well. So we'll have a couple more different examples of practices. And lastly, mindfulness helps reduce symptoms of depression, which again is actually kind of almost like a whole summary of what we just mentioned, improved sleep, reduced anxiety, improved mood, reduced stress, increased energy. So these would be the symptoms of depression. And because those are improved, that can most of the time automatically have an effect in terms of reducing symptoms of depression. But last point here, I would like to say before we move on that, of course, there are so many benefits, but this is not to say that we will be seeing these benefits right away. We'll be seeing these benefits, overnight. Like I said, these exercises can be great, even just as a one-off, but if we really are looking to get these kind of benefits, then maybe putting in a bit more effort to, maybe dedicate just 5 minutes of your day, or even if you'd like to do it, starting by practicing once a week, that would over time would very, very benefit you on your sorry, mental health and well-being. So, like I said, I also would like us to look at this technique. Essentially, it's a grounding technique and it's very useful. I do this sometimes. I tell my friends, I tell my family about it. I kind of practice this with clients as well. It's just a very useful and simple technique that I believe we all should keep in mind for times of stress. So let's say you are having a very stressful moment. Maybe you have a workshop coming up, you'll be presenting. No. But essentially there might be something coming up, there might be a job interview. Essentially, maybe you're thinking about it and maybe you are stressed in that moment, and it's just that stress is quite overwhelming and is stopping you from doing anything else, focusing on anything else. Essentially, you do want to be out of that feeling. Maybe that's what you're experiencing. So any type of stress moment, you can use this technique. Essentially, it's as simple as starting from the left and essentially thinking about, okay, what are 5 things that I can see right now, or I am seeing wherever I am right now. So for me, of course, I am looking at the screen. I see the screen, laptop screen. I can see the window. I can see a big tree outside through the window. I've got a cup of coffee. I'm seeing that. I've got some flowers next to me on the table. I'm seeing those as well. So those would be my 5 things that I'm seeing right now. So quickly in that moment of stress, one thing done, 5 things. Okay. Next would be 4 things that I can feel. So this might sound a bit more complicated, but trust me, it's not. So essentially, let's say I have a ring on my hand, I have a watch. I can feel, I'm able to feel right now how they're feeling, on my arm, on my hand. I'm wearing this t-shirt. How is the t-shirt feeling on my skin? I'm gonna focus on that. I've got cushion behind me. I'm feeling the cushion on my back. I'm sitting on a chair. I can feel how that feels for me. And that would be my 4 things that I can feel. So, and then if we move to the next, then that would be thinking about 3 things that I can hear. Of course, I am hearing my voice. I can hear what's happening outside. I live close to the station, so I can see a train go by. I am that close to the station. I can actually hear it. And then what else can I hear? I can hear my partner cooking in the other room as well. And then if we move to the next, then that would be two things that I can smell. I can smell the food. I can smell the food. And it's dinner time is slowly approaching for me here in London. And I actually have a cup of tea with me. A nice, lovely, warm chamomile tea, so I can smell that. And lastly, one thing that I am tasting, I thought, again, maybe let's do it simple. I've been drinking my tea from time to time throughout this presentation. I can still taste it. And now after this, I can taste it even more. So, essentially, I really like this, technique because it's just so simple. You can do it anywhere, anytime during a time of stress. And the aim of this is to be able to shift your focus from whatever's stressing you to things around you that you can find quickly and simply. It's not difficult, which helps because we don't want it to bring more stress and pressure really. So we want it to be simple. But yeah, I do think this is very helpful. And keep it in mind for any time you're feeling a bit overwhelmed and stressed and just want to, have a bit of a breather really that could kind of take you out of it. So try it next time.
These are all the senses, basically, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know
Cool.
how we're talking about awareness and being in the moment?
Right. Right.
It's just a short, simple way of using all of our senses and just increasing awareness and kind of shifting, like I said, shifting the focus from what we're stressed about in that
Very,
moment.
very cool. First time I see that one. Very good.
Ah, I'm glad we're able to talk about new things then. Perfect.
Cool.
So if we move on to our next slide, which is well-being 5 a day, essentially, similarly, we're seeing kind of 5 pillars here. And I really, want to make a point of how when we talk about mindfulness, usually, we think about meditation or certain practices. And like I said, they're great, they're very helpful. But mindfulness, like I said earlier, is more of a way of living, really, than just isolated practices, if I may. So these 5 pillars to our well-being essentially are ways to live mindfully, really, that we can very easily practice in our day-to-day lives. So, we have connecting, can be connecting with family, with friends, with colleagues, connecting with strangers, maybe saying good morning to someone on the street. But essentially just, increasing our connections with others. It can absolutely be with nature, can absolutely be with animals. Doesn't have to be strictly people, but essentially the feeling of connectedness is a very mindful thing. We've got connecting is the best. Yeah, absolutely. It's very important, very important. And no, it's not as difficult as we think. I mean, we actually, all of us, I would say, probably do at least one thing to connect to something, to someone in some way every day. And then we can move on to being active. I mean, I think that almost goes without saying. I'm sure we're all aware of the, benefits of being physically active on our mental health and well-being. And of course, maybe some of you are going to the gym, unlike me. Or, maybe you are enjoying going for nice walks. Maybe you are playing football with friends. It can look like anything as long as there is some activity, there is some physical activity that is part of your day, which is very important again. And again, it's part of a mindfulness practice as well, because whatever you're doing, if you're playing football, you'll be focusing on how you play on your football, or if you are walking, if you are going on a nice walk, then you'll be kind of listening to the sounds around you, perhaps, or looking at the road, looking at what's around you. And again, it's not always about fully shifting our focus, but essentially just being present. So even looking around can help us be more present as well. And while mentioning being present, we need to talk about taking notice. So, like I said, being present in the moment, just trying to have a bit more awareness around perhaps what's happening, how we're feeling, what's happening around us. It's very important. Um, you know, keep learning. This can look like reading a new book, maybe, or, learning about a new subject, learning how to play an instrument. Doesn't have to be a huge thing. And it can sometimes, it doesn't even have to be a new skill. But it can also be about, let's say, learning a bit more about your family, let's say, or your friends. Just, again, going back to taking notice of maybe what's happening with them. And again, this also kind of connects with the connect pillar as well. So it's all hand in hand, really. And lastly, we have give. So this, I do think that can even be the easiest. Giving can be a, can be a smile at a stranger on the street. Or it can be, of course, giving back to the community, maybe even donating some of your clothes, or some of your belongings if you're not using them anymore, to charities. Maybe being part of some community groups, but essentially just giving back to people, or helping out, supporting, just participating in different things that you are able to. Essentially, it's about whatever you are able to do, of course, but essentially these are the well-being 5 a day, really, that we all can think about, incorporating into our daily lives. And like I said, we all do most of these, I believe. I'm very, very sure. But just thinking about these can help us kind of remember that we can do a bit more, perhaps. So, of course, mindfulness can and will really look different for everyone. So, it can look like eating mindfully. So, oh, sorry, let's see, we have. So Dorset put in the chat, and they are asking, so from 5 a day well-being, you mean at least do one from each every day? You can absolutely do that. I think that is actually a great idea. I haven't really, thought of it that way, but I think that's an absolutely brilliant idea. Why not? Yeah, I think that could make it easier. Okay, Marjan. Sorry if I'm really butchering it. It's not Dorsa. Okay, you use it. Okay. Thanks for letting me know. Yes. So, like I said, it's a brilliant idea. You can absolutely do it like that. You can, it can be a great way to kind of start incorporating those things into your life. And then over time, it'll really, become second nature. So they will become very, very, natural, easy, and you'll be doing probably all of them every day, or most of them really, without even noticing. So, but that's a great way to start. So thank you for that. And like I was saying, essentially it's about what you're able to do and what would work for you or what you would enjoy, doing. So essentially mindfulness can look different for everyone. As you can see here, it can look like you are, maybe you are while you are eating your dinner, let's say. If you are doing it very mindfully, then perhaps you are really focusing on what's on your plate. Maybe you are looking at the colors of the food and, is it crispy? Is it crunchy? Is it soft? What are some of those flavors? What are the textures? When you're chewing, can you hear it? What are some of those, I suppose sensations that could bring you essentially? Are you enjoying your food? All that. So, maybe maybe I can recommend everyone that wherever you are right now, maybe your next meal, you can try this out if you're able to, sitting down and mindfully eat. So focusing on your food, focusing on the colors, how it looks, how it smells, what sort of smells are you able to get? The textures, flavors, everything. I would very much recommend trying that out, and you'll actually find that you will enjoy your food that much more. It can be a food where you have so many times, you know what it tastes like, you like it already, or it's just kind of a regular part of your life maybe. But you'll realize that you'll actually enjoy it a lot more than you would have usually. So try it out. But of course, mindfulness can look like, maybe can look like walking your dog. It can look like watching a film, sitting down and watching a film. It can look like maybe, sitting down and listening to music or listening to a podcast or an audiobook. Can, of course, look like this, meditating. Maybe, having a diary, maybe, it can look like journaling to you. It can even look like work, really. And sometimes we all might have had those days where maybe it's really busy, but we're very focused. We're set down, we're focused on our work, and we're only able to think about what we are doing in that moment. So that is almost, a state of flow, which is actually a pretty good thing for our brains, because then we're not able to really focus on, the negative thoughts that we might have, or think about this, stressful things that might be happening in our lives at that moment. So work can also be quite mindful. If we want to make something mindful, everything really can be part of mindfulness. Being in the zone, exactly, Feri Hanım, that's exactly it. Being in the zone is exactly it. Yeah, mindfulness while working would be being in the zone. Absolutely. So we have just, some other examples here, and essentially, there are cultures with cultures celebrating, almost making this like a ritual to, drink tea or drink coffee, as you can see, or maybe, when you're at a concert, you're listening to a musician that you really like and you're enjoying, and then you kind of, how music can have that transcending effect, so it can be very moving. So that is, mindfulness. If you're, watching a tennis match, let's say at the court, or even, live maybe on your TV, but essentially, how we see videos and photos of people just, they turn their heads, they turn their neck, constantly following the ball. I mean, that is mindfulness. Those people, including you, are fully watching, following the ball, fully seeing what's happening in that moment. That is mindfulness. Um, and if we want to talk about, how to reconnect the body, because we can find sometimes that perhaps we are not able to do that as much. But let me see, we have another comment. So Andres is saying, maybe join mindfulness to awareness of us in the space of life and our impacts on others. Ooh, that is quite interesting. So awareness of us in the space of
Well,
life and our impacts on others.
what I mean is, there's an incredible lack of awareness, most people that I come across, in terms of their
Mm.
impact on people around you. So this
Mm.
idea of merging mindfulness about your who you are in the space that you occupy, right? Yeah,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah, that's
No, that is a great point.
cool.
That is a great point. Sorry, I wanted to, wait a second to give you this space.
Yeah.
Did you want to elaborate any more or?
No, no, no. Just wanted to contribute that thought. That's all.
Oh, okay, brilliant. No, I think that is an absolutely brilliant point. Um, I unfortunately, we can see that perhaps not everyone has, the same level of awareness, perhaps, of their impact in the world. But like I said, that's why connecting is very important. That's why giving and taking notice, how we talked about, 5 a day well-being. If we come across someone like that, let's say, um, perhaps putting effort into practicing those pillars can actually help them increase their awareness as well. But
Right.
of course, the best we can do for us is to do it for ourselves. And I think what we can do for ourselves will hopefully always show others and hopefully inspire others as well. But that's a great point. Thank
Cool.
you.
Thank you.
So back to, reconnecting the body. Of course, mindfulness is a great way to do it. And essentially it is about noticing. And sometimes you can find yourself maybe doing a bit of mind reading. Maybe you are trying to predict, what's going to happen with the situation. Maybe you are time traveling. So either you're just thinking about something that might have happened in the past, or you're thinking about, okay, so, like predicting what's going to happen with this situation. So you're, kind of in the future. But it's what we have to do here is to come back every single time. And also pausing is very important. It helps us become aware of what's happening in our body instead of, getting lost in our thoughts. So our thoughts can be quite reactive. Of course, they will be responding to what's happening. But what's important here is that if we are able to bring awareness, acceptance, non-judgmental, um, type of understanding the situation, then we can relate to it a bit differently, and which will alter our experience in a positive way, or at least a neutral way, really. So we are actually then able to act rather than react to the situation, if that makes sense. Lastly, we can talk about a body scan, which will kind of do a similar exercise actually to your body scan in the end. But it helps very much to reestablish contact with the body, connecting your mind to your body as well, and helps you feel more relaxed and more at home in our body. So I am aware that we are running out of time, so we might need to speed up a bit. But essentially, recognizing stress is also very important. And when we look into stress, we look into it in kind of three parts, and that would be the stressor, perception, and response. So stressor is, the life change or extra demand, perhaps in your life at that moment, which causes problems for you. And then the perception would be how you view the stressor and, how you see it as it's relating to you and your situation. And then finally, we have the response. So the response would be the way your body, behavior, and thinking pattern changes. So stress can actually be looked into through all these things rather than, just the stressor really, because what essentially matters really the most is our response to the stressor, which mindfulness helps us with, how to respond to stress as well. So, of course, experiencing stress is not a very pleasant experience, is not a very pleasant feeling, but can stress ever be good? So essentially, we can see this graph essentially. As you can see, there is when we have a medium level of stress, which would be the optimal, then we are on, our optimal performance, whatever that may be. So there is a connection between, stress and performance. So, that's exactly why we're not really trying to stop or get rid of stress altogether. But what we're trying to do here is, to bring awareness to how we're feeling and, and then simply acknowledge the stress that we might be experiencing. And then, there are ways to manage it, and we can find those ways. So some stress is good for us because, especially, thinking about our survival, there we have some different responses, as we were mentioning, stressor and response. There's fight or flight response. Has anyone heard about the flight or flight? There's actually freeze in there now as well. So those are essentially responses that we can all have during times of stress. So, a very kind of exaggerated example for that would be, let's say, if we are in a forest, and then we see, let's assume that we see a bear, and of course, that moment we will be in quite a big stress, I'm assuming, and essentially that stress, although the experience is not very pleasant, is actually very helpful because it will then help us make the decision of either to fly, so essentially, try to remove ourselves from the situation. So it might probably look like maybe running away from the bear if we're able to. So that might be one option, or we can fight. So we can try and fight the bear, that's also an option. And also we might choose the freeze option where maybe we do not move at all and hope that maybe the bear doesn't notice that we're there. So of course, it's a very exaggerated option scenario, but in our day-to-day lives, we absolutely come across very stressful situations a lot, really. So in at times where we need to make those decisions and they happen within a split second, what helps with that is the feeling of stress. So some stress is definitely good and we need it. And when we, think about rumination or thinking, when people ruminate, they overthink about situations or life events. It can be about work, it can be about relationships, it can be about oneself. And essentially it's associated with, a variety of negative consequences. And it can look like perhaps experiencing symptoms of depression, maybe anxiety, stress, or post-traumatic stress disorder. So mindfulness is very, again, helpful with overthinking. You know how we were mentioning, if we're time traveling, if we're trying to predict, if we are trying to, read somebody's mind, we need to come back. So this is all very connected to that. And we have burnout. So burnout is essentially an occupational phenomenon that is recognized by the World Health Organization. So it's essentially a state of physical and emotional exhaustion. It can be happening, for example, if you're working a stressful job. So it can look like feeling tired or drained most of the time. It can look like feeling helpless, trapped. Maybe you are feeling quite detached and alone. You have a negative outlook of life and you are doubting yourself constantly. Maybe you're not, able to, finish tasks that you do need to finish, so you're procrastinating. And that feeling of feeling, overwhelmed. So it can look different for everyone, but of course, it's not the most positive experience. But again, going back to mindfulness, bringing, how we talked about the benefits of mindfulness. That's why, they're very important. That's why they're very important, and that's why they come into place. So one thing we can think about to help stress, to help burnout, um, it may not be for everyone, but people who I know have tried, have said that they are finding it very helpful, is journaling. Journaling essentially you can do it kind of on your laptop, you can do it on your phone, you can actually write down, which I would personally recommend. But essentially what it does is that it brings curiosity to your life and acceptance. So, feeling curious about your experience as a human being. And I think it almost kind of connects to Andres's point, almost, being aware of your impact, perhaps your existence essentially. So I think it can really very much create a narrative of of your life. So it can be like the story of you writing the story of your life essentially. But this is not to say that you would have to do it every day, or you would have to be, doing it in a way that is very, very detailed. It doesn't have to be like that. It's really however you choose it to be, but essentially it is just a way of, putting things down on the paper, or, you can do it on your laptop, like I said. Um, um, and you will then see that writing it down does give you a different perspective sometimes, does make thoughts clearer than they are, maybe perhaps in your head. Um, and then it brings acceptance because, okay, this is how I'm feeling. This is right here with me. I am actively, again, making that choice to be not judgmental here, towards myself, and accept that this is how I'm feeling. And, writing this down, engaging in this journaling practice is me showing myself that I am acceptant of these feelings. And there's also, like I said before, similar to a body scan, we have another technique called progressive muscle relaxation. And essentially it was first introduced by Edmund Jacobson in the 1930s. So this technique essentially involves, alternating tension and relaxation in all of the body's major muscle groups. So we'll actually practice it. So um, I'm, let me actually check the time. Okay, we're not that badly doing, hopefully. If we all have maybe a few more minutes, I think you can find this really helpful. So I think we should give this a go as well. Try it together, practice it. So how it's going to work essentially is we're not going to be able to lie down like you see it in the visual, but we can absolutely do it sitting on our chair, sitting on a sofa as well, no problem. So once again, I'm going to ask you to, sit comfortably, ideally, if you could have both of your feet on the floor, touching the floor, that would be great. And let me know if you are ready, and then we can have start. You can put it in the chat. Brilliant. Yes, a thumbs up would also work absolutely fine. Brilliant. Okay, Andres, I think you are also here. Right, so we're going to work. We're going to
I'm
start.
ready.
Brilliant. So we're going to start from our feet and essentially work our way up. So, right. Let's just start with taking a nice deep breath in. Hold it for a few seconds and exhale through your mouth. Again, deep breath in through our nose. Hold the breath for a few seconds and exhale out through the mouth. So let's pay attention to our feet on the floor. Let's feel how they're feeling on the floor. Our toes touching the floor, the soles of our feet touching the floor. And let's gently, put pressure on, let's curl our toes and just tense our feet. They can be off the floor at this point, but just make sure that you are really, really tensing your feet and your toes. Hold it, hold that tension, and release. Now, let's shift our focus to our lower legs. Now, I want you to really tense the muscle or the muscles on your lower legs. Really, really tense those muscles. Pay attention to how that tension feels. How do your muscles feel right now in your lower leg? And then now, release. Let's pause and pay attention to how our lower legs are feeling now after releasing that tension. Now let's go up to our thighs. You might want to just put them right next to each other, no gap between, and really just tense your muscles in your thighs. Feel tension in the muscles in your thighs. And now release. Let's pay attention to how our thighs feeling right now after releasing that tension. Now let's go up a bit again to our belly. Let's suck in our bellies, really tense those muscles there. Really, really suck in as much as you are able to and tense the muscles. Focus on how that feels, that tension, and then release. Now let's take the deepest breath that we possibly can take in. Really fill up our lungs, really fill up our whole chest area with lots of air. And release. Let's go back, let's go up to your shoulders. Maybe we can try to bring both our shoulders together on our backs as much as possible. Really tensing those muscles here and the center of our upper back. Really tensing. Just keep it. And release. Now let's move to our hands and arms, and let's all make big fist, and let's tense the muscles on our arms and clench our fists. Let's feel how that tension feels on our arms and hands. And release. Lastly, let's go up to faces, and let's try to use all our facial muscles to really tense facial muscles. I'm not going to look very presentable doing this, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. So, something like this. Really tense all the muscles in your face. Good. And let's take final big breath. Hold it. And release. Not good enough. Now let's pay attention to how our whole bodies are feeling after tensing our muscles and then relaxing our muscles. And whenever you're ready, open your eyes and come back to our session. Oh, welcome back, everyone. How was that for everybody?
Felt good.
Brilliant. Very soothing and restless. I agree. Do you have a favorite part maybe that I mostly enjoyed. I would say mine is probably the shoulders because I always get a lot of tension there anyway, and it really helps to tense it even further and then release it. It's just how very much helps to make those muscles relax for me. Did you find that maybe you had a kind of a favorite part?
I like relaxing my third eye.
Oh, that's very
Right.
good.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, lovely. So, oh, we have, okay, the legs. Yeah, no, it's definitely a great part, especially maybe, I don't know if you get pain sometimes on your legs, but either way, I do think that this whole exercise is very relaxing. Dorsus Mar Marjan. Sorry, I Marjan. Thank you. So it's my neck and shoulders. Yeah, I agree. I think that is also my favorite part. Brilliant. So, lastly, let's just kind of go over why mindfulness is very good for us, really. But I mean, why mindfulness essentially? So first of all, it's very accessible. All the exercises we did together in this session, you really just need yourself. You don't even need an instructor, sometimes, because essentially you can easily learn these practices, through practice and just fully start, those exercises by yourself as well. So all you need is yourself really for mindfulness. And it doesn't have to take so much of your time. Again, like I've been saying, a 5-minute practice can make all the difference. It's free. That's great. And as we've talked about time and time again, it's good for both your mental and physical health. Um, and again, like we've talked about previously, it can be practiced in everyday tasks or moments. And it's more about intention than what you do or how you do it. And like I've been saying throughout the presentation, it's more of a way of living rather than isolated exercises. So I'm hoping that you found this session helpful. This would be, all all the slides that we have for today. Thank you so much for joining today, and it was very lovely to meet you. I do hope that you found the practices helpful, and please let me know if you have any questions, any comments.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Ipek. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
And today is actually Earth Day, so it kind of fits the theme.
You're brilliant. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
So I have recorded this session and I will share with everyone who signed up. And there were 6 people who signed up for the workshop. So I will go ahead and share it with them, Ipek, with your permission.
Of course.
And yeah, so we're with this session, we're wrapping up our spring workshops and we will continue again in fall. And we're taking a break for summer. Our clinicians need summer break. They can enjoy and practice their mindfulness techniques and sharpen up their minds. Thank you so much for bringing your curious minds. I appreciate it and look forward to another workshop with all of you guys.
Awesome.
Thank you
See you all
all.
later. Have a great Earth Day.
Take care. Have a great
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.